I just got home from my Congresswoman's absolutely packed town hall, and I want to tell you how it went. Now, I'm in Oregon's 3rd Congressional District. Our rep is Dr. Maxine Dexter, and she is a freshman in Congress. She replaced longtime Congressman Earl Blumenauer. As always, I took copious notes, and I'm going to share a little bit of those with you here, and also just give my overall impressions of what the Congresswoman had to say and how people in the room were feeling. We were in the Centennial High School gym in Gresham, Oregon, so it was pretty easy to do an estimate based on seating in the bleachers. I got about 1,200 people, but then more folks were streaming in afterward and sitting on the floor, so maybe a little bit more than that, maybe 1,300 or 1,400. We were absolutely packed in. It was about a zillion degrees in the gym. And I would say the mood in the room was outrage, probably. That's the best way to describe it. Much like both of my senators' recent town halls, people want action. They want our elected officials to take action. They are really deeply concerned about the state of our democracy and the active coup that Elon Musk and Donald Trump are carrying out. And they feel that Congress is not doing enough. There were a few outbursts of people speaking out of turn because folks are freaking out. They are really stressed and they feel a sense of helplessness. They feel that their elected officials are letting them down. I totally empathize with that, and I really think that the Congresswoman does as well. I get the sense from Congresswoman Dexter that she's ready to go, right? She knows that what is being done is not enough, and I understand the limitations of her power and influence as a freshman member of Congress, and the fact that she is in the minority party. The first person to stand up was a veteran who is a federal government employee who was just fired by Elon Musk and Doge. He said that he had good performance reviews, he was a probationary employee, and Doge is falsely claiming that he had performance issues when his boss said that he had none. That they are making up excuses to fire people. And Representative Dexter came back. She's on the Veteran Affairs Committee, so this is her wheelhouse, right? She said that approximately 30% of our federal workers are veterans, and many of them are disabled in the line of duty. This is who Elon Musk is laying off. If you go watch the video that I posted on my backup account, and if you're watching this on YouTube, I will have it uploaded right before this one. We saw Republicans at a Republican senator's town hall in Kansas, rural Republicans who are deeply worried about what Doge is doing to our veterans, not only cutting VA benefits, not only firing folks from the VA so that our veterans who have been injured defending our democracy cannot get the services that we have promised them. Not only that, but they are firing veterans from the federal workforce that have necessary jobs. I thought that the Republican Party was the party that stood with our veterans, that was very pro-military. Part of being so patriotic is that you're pro-military, right? Then why are you letting our veterans be treated like absolute garbage? Why are you disrespecting our veterans and intentionally inflicting suffering upon them? Or standing cowardly by while Elon Musk does that? Speaking of Elon Musk, Rep. Dexter said that billionaires are trying to take over the government and Trump is an accomplice. I mean, he is a billionaire as well, but I think she means the technocrat bros. She said, quote, "We need everyone to let us," that's members of Congress, "know that you don't want an unelected billionaire as a special government employee." She also went on to say that she doesn't think a government shutdown is a good idea, especially because Elon Musk is advocating for it. And she said, when Elon Musk wants it, we must fight for the opposite. There was obviously a tremendous amount of fear and anger about what we are doing to Ukraine and the way that it is incredibly obvious to us and everybody in the world that Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Pete Hegseth, they are puppets of Vladimir Putin. I want to cover this more later, but we're suddenly no longer protecting ourselves from cybersecurity threats from Russia. What Trump did in the Oval Office yesterday was despicable, and it made America look incredibly weak, and we betrayed our ally. Ukraine has been our long-standing ally. I want to quote something that Congresswoman Dexter said about that. She said, "I want to make it clear. Ukraine gave up the third largest nuclear arsenal in 1994 in exchange for America and Europe's help for the long term. What Trump is doing is destabilizing everyone's security, the world's security." She said, "I am concerned that my children will be sent to a war that is unnecessary. As the mother of 4 children, my 2 youngest are teenage boys, I am also worried about what is going to come in the next few years." She said, quote, "No one should misunderstand. What happened yesterday in the Oval Office is putting our security at risk and the world's security at risk." Trump has systematically betrayed and or alienated us from all of our allies, Canada, Mexico, Ukraine, Europe, in order to align himself with Vladimir Putin, who he, for some reason, adores and looks up to. His desperate and pathetic need to seek the approval of Vladimir Putin is putting the world's security at risk. So this brings up the fact that so many Republicans in Congress are very pro-Ukraine and very anti-Russia, as they should be. Ukraine has been our long-standing ally. Russia is a direct threat to our national security. So why then are they all voting in line with Donald Trump and Elon Musk? Well, the Congresswoman said this, and I quote, "There are Republicans who, when they think of stepping out of line, they get a call from the president. They are getting death threats," end quote. She went on to say that people in the districts of Republican elected officials need to, one, be courageous themselves, and two, be pressuring their reps and their senators to likewise be courageous. She said, we need 3 people in the Congress to grow a spine, grow some courage, and step away from party lines and vote on behalf of their constituents and the Constitution. There's only a 3-seat majority. They need 3 people to flip, and that's it. But she, and I believe that Congressman Swalwell broke a story about this a couple of days ago, have said that their colleagues who are Republican in Congress are getting death threats against them and their family. And I understand that that is not okay. That should not be happening. But I'm sorry, they're willing to sell the entire United States of America, the lives of millions of people here at home and millions more worldwide. They are risking throwing us into World War III because they are cowards. And, you know, Dr. Dexter took this angle of like, I don't want to dump on those folks. What I want to do is encourage them, motivate them to do the right thing, motivate them to gain some courage, to shore themselves up and to break away, because it's only going to take 1 or 2 or 3 of them breaking away. She said they know that what they're doing is wrong. They don't want to be voting with the party, but they're scared shitless. You can have whatever kind of reaction to that you want to. I know what my reaction would be, but I also understand the way that Rep. Dexter is approaching this. She wants not just to shame them, she wants them to start saving democracy. She wants them to flip. And so she's trying to motivate them as best she can. And she just said, we have got to be putting the pressure on our Republican elected officials to do the right thing, to grow a spine. And I would argue to be more afraid of us, the American constituents, than they are afraid of Donald Trump. Okay, I'm about halfway through my notes, so I'm going to leave it here and I'm going to film a part 2 and explain the rest of what happened in the meeting. And then some of my takeaways, because I have a lot of feelings and a lot of concerns that came out from this town hall. So please come back and watch part 2 when you're done here. Okay, part 2 of attending my Congresswoman Maxine Dexter's town hall today in Gresham, Oregon. If you've not seen part 1, please go watch it. If you're watching this on YouTube, they will be spliced together in one video. So in the first half, I was talking about how my Congresswoman said that Republicans in Congress know that they are voting wrong. They know they are doing the wrong thing. They are betraying their constituents. They're betraying the Constitution, but that they are literally getting death threats when they think about stepping out of line. I mean, Speaker Mike Johnson hinted at this, that when there was rumblings about cutting Medicaid or creating the scaffolding that is going to require them to cut Medicaid in the upcoming budget, that people know that that is wrong, that they are making their constituents suffer. They are taking away vital healthcare and services from their constituents. In fact, in many states, upwards of 60% of our elders in nursing homes are there on Medicaid. If Medicaid gets cut, what's going to happen to our frail elders? What's going to happen to our grandma and grandpa? What's going to happen to Granny with dementia? She's going to get kicked out of her nursing home? 40% of America's children are on Medicaid at any given point in time. And those Republicans know that it is wrong to take away healthcare from little children. But they are getting death threats and they have no spine. They have no courage. And so they are buckling. They are voting along party lines because they are intimidated by a bully. So constituents had very, very real concerns about cuts to Medicaid and the suffering that will be caused. Keep in mind, 100% of these cuts are being made so that billionaires can get a tax cut for the next 10 years. People are losing access to their health care. People will suffer and die so that billionaires can get a tax cut. I don't give a shit if your Republican rep tells you any different. Look at the budget. Look at what they're doing. They are adding trillions to the debt. They are cutting health care from our elders, from our disabled folks, from little children, from pregnant women, so that billionaires can get a tax cut. So Congresswoman Dexter is an emergency room physician, and so she's obviously well acquainted with Medicaid and treating people on Medicaid. She said, if these cuts go through, which the way that they voted through this initial bill is going to require them to remove $880 billion from the budget, and the only place that that can come from is Medicaid. She said, Medicaid in Oregon will be cut by 50%. She said that 1 in 3 Oregonians uses Medicaid. Cliff Bentz, who is a Republican congressman in a different district, I think he's District 2, I'm in District 3, has more Medicaid patients than Dr. Dexter does in Portland. If you are in Cliff Bentz's district in Oregon, you need to be on the phone with him every day saying, why are you voting to take away Medicaid from your constituents? Why are you voting against the health, safety, lives of your constituents? And Congresswoman Dexter was saying that the more pressure from constituents, the more success she and other Democrats in Congress will have at convincing their colleagues to break away. They need to be more afraid of their constituents than they are of Donald Trump. And I appreciated that Congresswoman Dexter, much like Senator Wyden and Senator Merkley, went on to talk about bills that she's putting forward, knowing that they have a snowball's chance of passing in the House that is controlled by Republicans who, at this point in time, all fall in line. But she, like my senators, said it's important to note their dissent. It's important to get it on the record. It's important to make it clear that Democrats are putting forth an alternative vision for America. Sorry, y'all, I keep sneezing. My allergies are really going. Okay. And then folks were like, okay, well, that's not going to get the job done. There was a very impassioned person who stood up, and I wish I had filmed it, and listed all of these vital programs that DOJ is cutting illegally. By the way, Congresswoman Dexter acknowledged that what DOJ is doing is illegal, and she had confidence that the courts, who have already issued stays, are going to be rehiring people and are going to be reinstituting some of these programs. I'll get to more of my feelings on that at the end. But this person stood up, and the Congresswoman got very choked up as they were speaking about the fact that, we need to do more. When is the time for us to do more? We have to take more radical actions than just attempting to put forth bills that are going to go nowhere and are not going to stop the coup. They're not going to stop Elon Musk. And Dr. Dexter said, we have to stand together in the face of unlawful, cruel action. We have to stand together. She talked about how the Democrats in Congress are very much not united. There are different people with different beliefs. Some folks have a much larger Democrat margin. Some folks barely squeaked out a win and are representing more conservative districts. Some folks are more establishment. I got a sense that there was frustration in the leadership, Hakeem Jeffries, and their lack of action. And I got the sense that younger, more energetic members of Congress, by younger I mean they have not been in Congress as long, or also they might be younger age-wise, that they are more motivated to save democracy. They are more motivated to be innovative and try new things and to try stronger tactics. But that there is that tension within the Democrats in Congress. Folks brought up DACA and they brought up our immigrant population. And she said she works quite a bit with immigrants in Oregon. And she said, I believe that collective action amongst our farm workers and immigrant workers is an option that we may need to see so that folks will see the scope of how much we rely on immigrants in this society. I've said this in other videos, but in most states, 25 to 50% of our agricultural workers are undocumented immigrants. We are going to watch our food system grind to a complete halt when there is nobody to harvest crops, there's nobody to plant and manage crops. There's nobody to work in slaughterhouses and meatpacking plants. And the Congresswoman rightly said it's not just in the agricultural sector, it's our construction workers, it is our folks who are our caregivers. The majority of our caregivers for elderly folks are CNAs, are MAs, they are immigrants. The majority of the folks who care for our children are immigrants. The majority of the folks who work in food service are immigrants. So a nationwide walkout of our immigrant workers would just shut things down, right? Having that collective action. But folks are afraid, they're fearful of ICE. Which reminds me, I want to go back for a second. Earlier when she talked about not wanting to shut the government down because that's what Elon Musk wants, she made the point that if the government is shut down, the courts can't operate, folks don't have those protections, but ICE, it will continue to be funded and ICE will continue to operate. And then folks will be whisked away and deported and we won't know what happened to them. And all of the parts of the government that are supposed to check them will be shut down. The Congresswoman also spoke about how they have to be careful what kind of escalating steps that they take, because they are in the minority. So if they're too much of a band of rabble-rousers, if they try to do a sit-in or something like that, then the majority in the Congress will just change the rules. She did say that she and other Democrats in Congress want to do something for the State of the Union. I'm going to send my video to her about what I think she should do for the State of the Union. I've tagged her on Blue Sky. I hope someone in her staff sees it. If you want to know what I think they should do, go watch my little 4-minute video on YouTube about it. Okay, so what are my big takeaways from this town hall? Two things. Dr. Dexter made it very clear that Democrats in Congress are hinging our democracy. They're pinning all of their hopes on two things. One, the courts continuing to rule on the side of the people and follow the Constitution, which overwhelmingly so far they are. She did not bring up the fact that those cases will get escalated to SCOTUS, and who knows what they will do. After all, they're the ones who gave Trump immunity and have basically set up this scenario for our nation. So that's a very fragile hook to pin your hopes on, right? The second thing she said is that we must get 3 Republican members of Congress to forego their cowardice and grow a spine, to gather their courage and to break away, despite the threats from Mike Johnson, despite the threats from Donald Trump. That they need to rise to the occasion and start voting in support of their constituents and the Constitution. Because what they are doing is being complicit in destroying democracy, creating suffering and death for Americans. And they know it. They know what they're doing is wrong. And I'm going to read my little note that I wrote down while she was talking. I said, this feels super precarious. That cannot be the Dems' only hope of protecting democracy. If Dems are relying on 3 Republicans, if the future of our democracy hangs on 3 Republicans, we're in all kinds of trouble. I mean, I know we're in trouble, but like that cannot be it. I said, if that is what Dems are relying on to get the job done, they're not doing enough. We cannot pin the great American experience. We cannot pin the lives of hundreds of millions of people. We cannot pin our democracy on the hope that SCOTUS will follow the Constitution and that 3 Republicans will grow a spine. So while I appreciate so much the passion of the Congresswoman, and I know her heart is in the right place, I really get the feeling that she wants to do, she said, I will lay down on the railroad tracks to defend the rights of Oregonians. And I believe her. But once again, it is very clear to me that Congress does not have a plan to save us. Democrats do not have a plan to save us. They are relying on other folks to do the necessary work because they don't have the numbers in Congress. They are relying on us, the American people, to persuade the Republicans. They're relying on us to take to the streets, to engage in economic boycotts, and they're hanging their hopes on the lower courts. I was so encouraged to see such a large crowd and the energy coming from that room. Americans care about our fellow citizens, we care about Ukraine, and we want to save our democracy. So thanks for listening.